So, today we have with us Mr. Sai Prasad, a distinguished senior banker with over 35 years of experience in the banking and financial services industry. His expertise spans across various fields from retail sales, service, operations to channel management, employee training, change management, and technology procurement. He has a passion for making a difference and now works to reform the food and agri value chain. So, welcome, Sai, and we're super excited to hear your story today.
Thank you, Samira. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, to share my story on this, platform today. So you know my name already, and I'm a career banker by profession. I'm basically from Andhra Pradesh in India, and have about 34 years of banking experience. I started off my banking career in India with public sector banks called Andhra Bank. After that, with State Bank. Then I jumped into ICICI Bank, which is basically the private sector bank. I was with ICICI for 26 years. Of that, the first 12 years I was with ICICI in India, where I have predominantly worked in retail branch banking in various states and cities in India. Then in 2007, ICICI Bank deputed me to ICICI Bank's Canadian banking subsidiary based in Toronto, Canada, to set up the Canadian ICICI Bank subsidiaries operations and channels and branches, products and technology and digital channels, and run the operations. So I did that successfully for about 15 years. I wore various hats in ICICI Bank in Canada in the product management, operations, payment solutions. I've also been part of, the industry lead team that, transformed the Canadian real-time payment system and the Canadian, large value transfer system, which is equivalent to
Mhm.
RTGS in India. So I was part of the industry payments committee, which transformed Canada's large value transfer system, and then later on initiated the real time transfer payment system in Canada. Then while I was in Canada, I took early retirement from ICICI as I was looking at my options of starting something on my own, or joining at a fairly senior leadership team of a scaled startup, a matured startup, so that I get entrepreneurial experience. Even though I'm on payroll, joining a leadership team of a matured startup will also give me equally an entrepreneurial experience. When I was doing that, in the meanwhile, I joined Infosys in Canada as a senior principal consultant in their pre-sales uh, team of banking solutions, core banking solutions. Worked there for 1 year. Then my return to India has happened. So I'll keep that a suspense for your next question about my return to India experience, how it all happened.
Yes, that's why we're here today, Sai. So, yes, actually, coming to the point, really want to understand, after moving there, moving to the West, and what prompted your decision to return to India after, like 15 years of work experience abroad. So, what was the reason that you moved back?
Yeah, so when we went, the motivator and driver was our children, who were small at that time. But after some years there, after being there for some years, we felt like we really got what we wanted. The children's well-being and their education and everything. All those goals were accomplished, and somewhere deep inside our hearts, we were Indians at heart, both me and my wife. So both of us have been longing to come back. She was longing more than me initially. Then she motivated me. Then we motivated each other. And then, one fine day we took the call. We said, let's go and, spend our rest of our life, or maybe a long part of our life, in India. So that was the reason.
Definitely. As they say, once an Indian, always an Indian at heart. So, yes, definitely. So, apart from this emotional reason, which is, I think, one of the major factors, when it comes to relocating back to India, did you feel anything else was also the motivating factor in terms of better opportunities, how India was, changing while you were gone? So, were there other factors that had a role to play?
Definitely. I would say it is 50-50. 50% of our coming back was, we being Indians at heart. That's one reason. The other 50% is, the uh, transformation that has been happening in India, particularly the economic transformation, the growth. India is growing, phenomenally in several areas. So that's another driver. We felt like, maybe we have a much better and stronger opportunity to be in India maybe for next 10 years plus. This is where the action is, and this is where the future is what we felt. So the professional reasons for moving back to India are the buoyancy and the growth that's happening in India, and which we believe will continue to happen for at least another 10 to 15 years.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we're on that kind of growth curve, and the top is yet to be reached, right? So, do you feel that this is another reason why this return to India trend, the brain gain phenomena, has kind of picked up pace? Is this why other NRIs such as yourself are now looking to come back? Is this a shared sentiment?
Yeah, so you know what? I'm in my mid 50s, and all my social circle in Canada for the 15 years that I lived, they are all around the same age, because birds of the same, feather flock together. So people are of the same age. It's just that I have returned, and there are many who are silently in their heart wishing they also return once, once in a
Definitely.
lifetime to India. So all of them, were highly motivated, looking at me coming back, and they were saying, if only we had an opportunity like you, we would also have moved to India. But opportunities, for some they come on their way, for some they have to create, for some they have to discover and find.
That's a very interesting point, the opportunity aspect. I think we'll go into that more later on. But coming to your area of expertise, which has mostly been banking and finance, right? So, when you left, you had a fair share of experience and you gained a lot of experience there as well. So, what would you say? How did India's financial sector completely change from when you were here and when you returned? So,
So yeah, so when I left India in 2007, Indian banking was a sleepy, just computerizing from a manual, big bound ledgers and all that, the thick bound. I remember my heydays of banking, working in public sector banks, way back in early 2000s or late 90s, where we used to lift a 10 kilogram, heavy book, which is a customer ledger for posting an entry. And I have to do that 100 times a day. I have to lift it and keep it back in the shelf 100 times a day. So those were the days. From there, and 2007, when I left, slightly better. Instead of those ledgers, big desktop computers have come onto the table, which is better. But still, bulk of the work used to be manual. Bulk of the reconciliation and back office work used to be manual. There used to be a lot of paper. But not just this returning once for good, but last few years also I have been on and off, coming and going to out of India. So I have been seeing rapid transformation in digitization, in not just banking, in several other areas. Of course, the areas are everywhere in India. You can say, I don't have to tell them. If you take UPI, for example, if you take the digital public infrastructure, DPI,
100%, yeah.
for example, all these are game-changing developments in India. So this is another reason that prompted. I mean, if one really want to become an entrepreneur, and you want to do it really quick and fast, and you want to do it in style, India is the place, because now everything technology-wise, everything is there. Government has laid out all the technology, DPI, and everything. All that you have to do is come up with a good idea and assort a few APIs here and there, put a good front end UI to that, and you have a successful consumer business.
Definitely. And I think especially the like you pointed out, everything was very manual in India first. That is how, the scenario was kind of used to doing things, and now everything's digitalized, right?
100%.
And so I think that relates into my next question, which is on the work culture in India, right? I think if you ask any NRI, okay, what prompted you to leave India and go abroad? A lot of them come back to the point that, the work culture in the West is amazing. There's flexibility, there's work-life balance. So while we do have a long way to go in India right now, but how do you think that scenario has changed, and how was it like for you to adjust, back to the work culture in India?
Uh, so in the West, the work culture is perfectionism. I mean, you try to do things with perfection, and you may do little slow, but you will do it like no one else can do. So that's the culture that I learned in the West.
Okay.
And here in India, even before I left, or after I come back also, the two phases I will tell. Before I left, speed and agility used to be the work culture. Today, also speed and agility rules the work culture in India. You have to do really things fast, and you have to take decisions fast, you have to execute fast and implement fast. So those traits still rule, but besides that, there is much more orderliness in Indian work culture today than it used to be when I left in 2007. The orderliness in terms of using state of the art tools and technologies like project management tools, Zira software, in the smallest of the smallest project, the smallest organizations, all these tools are being in use, which is really amazing. So now, time, speed, agility intact, India has brought in a lot of orderliness to work culture.
So I think what we can summarize this by saying that it's not necessarily one is better than the other. Maybe it's just different,
Sure.
right? Yeah. Thank you for that. And want to know, so when you did move back to India, were there any cultural shocks that you received that you weren't ready for after 15 years of living in Canada? Were there any surprises or shocks?
Yeah. So one thing that was there at the back of my mind is perhaps the workload and work pressure and the working hours, long working hours. This could be something which I may not be able to cope up. That was my feeling before I returned to India. But after coming here, uh, it could be for two reasons. One is, I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing. That could be one reason where I'm not feeling the work pressure. And two, I'm in completely different domain and a different area than I used to be. It's somewhat, there is a mix and match of what was my previous, job roles in my career and what I'm doing currently. But largely, it is a greenfield area for me. I made a shift from, banking to agricultural finance. So it is, I would say, 70% knowing agriculture and 30% knowing banking. So it's a combination of both these. That's the space I am in today. So the new area of work and new industry, and the because I'm doing what I'm enjoying, I'm inspired and motivated in the work that I do. But perhaps for these reasons, I'm not feeling that fear of workload. I won't be able to have managed the work pressure in India. Today, I feel it's uncalled for. I should not even had that fear before returning. But now I'm truly enjoying what I do.
So, I mean, would you say that one key, reason or something that people should think about before moving back to India is finding that purpose, finding where you would like to contribute back to your homeland? Is that one way where they could get rid of any hesitations or feelings of anxiety they have?
That's true. That's true. So what I would think is, I mean, as it happened in my case, so I'm more wiser on hindsight because it happened in my case. So if you get to work in an area of where your expertise lies and your motivation and inspiration lies, I mean, if you can come to an
Blend,
intersection of
yeah.
both these, I think that is when you will enjoy your back to India experience or return to home experience.
That's the sweet spot, as they would
Mhm.
say.
That's true.
Yeah, great. So coming on to another, so we addressed, the cultural differences and also the work culture in India. But talking about, the personal aspect, which is the lifestyle that you can lead. While many people feel that, the West offers this amazing, thriving lifestyle, whereas India is more on the cultural and traditional side of the lifestyle, and you can't live that well as you can in the West. So, would you agree with that, or what are your views on this?
Okay, so again, because I have seen best of both the worlds, and
Yeah,
I'm seeing it again in India. Maybe in future again, I may want to see it in West. That's a different issue. So that being the case, there are no right or wrong lifestyles, I mean, for example, the lifestyle in the West is more orderly, organized, the day is in your control, you can plan it, you can you are in control with your time and stuff like that, your traffic, your time, your commute, you are in control. Here you may not have that perfect control on everything. Once you move out of the four walls of your home, most of the things may not be in your control. But still, it didn't bother me so much because, again, I keep saying this, I'm a Indian at heart. I have not forgotten all the traffic. I have not forgotten, delays that can happen. All these, they are there somewhere. I'm genetically hardwired to this, I would say. So it didn't bother me much. So that's on my personal front and my professional front. So none of this bothered me. Instead, I would say the mobility and transportation in India today is far superior and better than what it was when I left India in 2007. There were not so many modes of transports. I mean, if you really don't care for taking a Rapido bike share ride when you really want to get to some place, this is a place to be in, right? The weather is always pleasant and nice, and you can just hail any ride and then move on. So mobility, transportation, all these are very agile and flexible. I like that part of it. That's on the professional and moving out part. But now coming to my family front, on the culturally, I'm touching the cultural aspects also. The gated community life that we are experiencing here in India is again far superior. Like you get to have everything that you want at your fingertips. When I say fingertips, typically on your mobile, right? On your mobile,
Instantly. Yeah.
instantly you can punch a few keys and you have what you want. Like it's like a
Correct.
genie. Everything gets delivered and everything gets happened on a few touches on the mobile. So but it's really amazing the way things are here. So both places have their advantages. Both places have their maybe some inconveniences somewhere. But overall, when I balance, I don't think I'm in imbalance. I'm in perfect balance of what I used to enjoy there versus what we are enjoying here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you pointed out, that both have their plus points and both have their, weaknesses as well. It's about your personal preference and tapping into that, I feel.
That's
So that's the great aspect. So you did mention, Sai, that you've kind of switched your fields a bit while you were still in finance, but you're more on the agricultural aspect of it. So in this new career, how would you say your global experience that you've gained after 15 years in Canada, how is that helping you flourish in this new field and adapting to it?
okay. So the field that I used to be in was banking and financial services, and a little bit of technology overlaying it. That was where I was in the last 34 years of my career. And the field that I am now today is basically working in the agricultural industry on agricultural finance and providing market linkages to smallholder farmers through an aggregated model of farmer collective, something like a cooperative, working with a farmer producer companies or working with a farmers society, and then impacting the lives of smallholder farmers by giving access to them on four dimensions. The access is in giving them access to latest technology, giving them access to the finance, unbridled access to finance, giving them access to market linkages. What they produce, they should be able to sell at the best price at their time and at their convenience, and then giving them access to capacity building and training. So these are all the four areas that my company in India works in. So the company name is Samunnati Financial Intermediation and Services Private Limited. It's a Chennai-based matured startup. So I'm in a leadership position here. I'm a group business head for farmer collectives. So in fact, this sector and this segment and the work that this company does in this area is a real motivator and inspiration for me to move back to India, looking at the growth opportunities available in this sector. So where really my 15 years of experience in the West has really helped me here, the technologies that I have seen there, in US and Canada in the banking industry. And the way when we launch a new product or a process with precision and perfection in Canada, one example is, when in Canada, when the whole industry launched the new large value payments system, some 144 member banks in Canada have to come together, and all of them had to migrate on a single day like an orchestra to the new payment system. So how we did that with precision without any inconvenience to the consumers or to banks. So those are all the experiences that I brought home. And India thankfully offers much bigger scale when you want to do things. I mean, you can't get a bigger scale than what we get here in India or
Definitely.
China. So apply those principles of the West, execution principles of the West, perfectionism and execution principles of the West to mega projects that I have an opportunity to launch in India. So that's a really nice blend of both worlds.
That that sounds awesome. And that sounds like, the world is your oyster then, right? When you do this. Coming to one very interesting point, like you mentioned, the company you work for is a mature startup, right? One notion that a lot of NRIs have is that if we move back to India, it's got to be one of those huge big names in the industry. It has to be one of those big companies that have been around forever. But what about the startup scenario in India, right? That's thriving. So, would you recommend that NRIs look for opportunities within the startup sector as well? There are some companies that are doing some amazing work, revolutionary work, right? So, what would you say on that?
Yeah. So if someone were to return to India and take up a job yet again, generally 3, 4 things drive their priorities. If they have school going kids, of course, schooling is the utmost priority of all. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, they may want to prefer to come back and set in a particular city or state. That's the second preference that will drive. And I would say put these two in the front. And then third, what kind of job you want to do or what kind of industry you want to work in, keep that as a third priority. And if that happens to be a startup that's giving you all three, for example, if it is a starting off, at a fairly good position, that the most sought after position in a startup that you want to say, you aspire to work in the West, but you could not start off at such level, but that opportunity comes to you in India, but all your conditions are met. That gives you the choices to city to live in, that gives you the choices to schools that you want to send your kids to. And only because it is a startup, I would say don't reject the offer, take it and go for it by all means. Successful scaling up startups in India are not to be overlooked or written off so easily just because I was in the West and I deserve anything better than that. I know at least half a dozen people in my own circles who returned and joined startups in India.
That's excellent. And it's a changing trend that we see,
That's
right? Which is again a testament to how well the country is doing in this aspect. So that's great. Now, coming back to the original point that you made, that, a lot of your colleagues and a lot of your network comments on how they'd love to explore opportunities in India as well, and if they got that correct opportunity, right? So, two aspects. One, what do you think holds them back from finding that correct opportunity? Do you think, they're not looking in the right places? And also, platforms like GTX, where we do provide a platform for NRIs to explore opportunities with some of the best companies that are doing some groundbreaking work in India. How do you think these kind of platforms can be their go-to?
Yeah, so honestly, when I was in Canada, I was not aware of a purpose-built platform that a prospective employee can look up to, saying, okay, now I want to return to India. Is there a platform that specializes in recruiting skill sets like me? Honestly, I was not aware such platforms do exist. And through our discussion, I came to know that GTX is one such platform. And GTX focuses on supporting returning Indians get placed in their best suited and most sought after professions. So that's I'm coming to know, if many people know that such platforms exist, I think you will get more hits for sure. More people will be searching it, more eyeballing will happen on GTX like platforms. That is one thing. Second thing is, people in their heart who want to come back, there are a few pulls that hold them back. One, if you have school going kids at home, you would want to hang on till such time they complete their high school and they
Correct.
move to a university, because university is fairly a freedom to parents.
Mhm.
Children will be on their own once you are 18 plus and you have crossed into a university campus. You are an adult there in the West. I'm saying you are no more dependent on your parents, and you can live anywhere, and parents can live anywhere. So platforms like GTX, if you really want to tap such talent and bring them to India, I think the right age group to tap is maybe people in mid 40s whose kids have already started going to university, and that is the population who are easily amenable to moving to India, returning to India, of all.
Great. So yes, won't take more of your time. Just wrapping up, if there was one message that you could give to the other NRI professionals that are going to be watching this video, what would it be?
Yeah, so I would say, if you are really longing in your heart to come back, don't hesitate. Look for platforms that are that can make your transition very seamless to India, both personal and professional. There are opportunities available, and India is growing and growing like crazy. And in all the fields, whatever be your field, there are opportunities in India. Uh, but if you still want to hone up your skills for some more time, outside India, and then think of consider and returning it later to India, that's also a choice you can make. But you won't regret when you make the move now or any time later. I think I can reasonably assure you from my own experience that you won't regret that move. Thank you.
It's all about taking that plunge, right? Sure.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for telling us your story today. It was wonderful having you. And thank you for being here.
Thanks, Samira. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. And I wish GTX's grand success in bringing more and more talented Indians back to India, uh, and let them have an inspiring life in India. Thank you.
Thank you.